and Miami today 83.
Yeah, a little difference.
A little bit different.
Yeah.
All right, we're very excited about this, honestly. We are very excited about this because we are huge, and who is not? We are huge Stuart Scott fans. 6 p.m., December 10th. That's 2 days from now. Boo-Yah! The 30 for 30
Boo-Yah!
Documentary series on Stuart Scott will debut on ESPN and the ESPN app. The producer and director of that program, Andre Gaines, joins us right now. Andre, I'm Dave. That's Jason. We are happy to be what I imagine is one of the 740 interviews you're doing between now and that day. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
We're excited.
Great.
Very excited.
Yeah.
What is, a friend of the show is Jason Hare, who you'll know did the Michael Jordan doc and many 30 for 30s. And one answer he gave once, I always said, I'm going to ask everybody who is in this position the same thing. What is your what is your blood pressure and all other things like heading into something like this? Are you like an expectant father? Are you nervous as hell? Or are you, hey, it's the die is cast, it is what it is?
Oh yeah, it's at this point it's sort of like it's like a planned C-section.
Right.
It's like you still gotta go into surgery, but you've come this far to this point that you're kind of ready, So it's it has some of those elements, but I tell you, it was an emotional journey telling this story for all the obvious reasons. Not only as a fan, but as a filmmaker, as somebody who, adored Stuart Scott and wanted to pay tribute to him, but got a chance to discover him in such a way that nobody has ever seen. And I just can't wait for everybody to be able to see what we've seen. That's really what the excitement is. So, yeah, so it's a combination of multiple things.
Well, Andre, you kind of alluded to it there, because usually to take on a project like this, there's some sort of draw for you as someone who's taking on this amazing task. So you said you're a fan. What do you feel like you learned that you didn't know going in about Stuart Scott, who just became just this icon?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I learned was his theater background. Like, growing up, there's always we all kind of have our own cliques, right? It's like there's the jocks over here, there's sort of the folks in the band over here, there's the theater kids over there, there's kind of the nerds and the math whizzes over here. Stuart was this unique and unusual combination of a theater jock or a theatrical jock, so to speak, which made a lot of sense. I was like, wow, this guy has some acting chops. He actually has it makes sense how he brought this performance to his broadcasts. He had this unique background that ultimately resulted in a unique delivery when it came to his catchphrases, his everything on his shot sheet, how he's bringing sports to an audience. So yeah, it was a great thing to be able to discover. And also the other thing too is the fact that he recorded himself really throughout his life doing selfies before that was a thing, before social media was ever a thing. You have the big clunky, camcorder on the other side, turning around to him and facing. And so we got a chance to wade through hundreds of hours of this footage and be able to put it into the film.
As we're talking to Andre Gaines, the director of Stuart Scott's 30 for 30 Boo-Yah coming up in a couple of days, Jason and I talked about this last week when we found out you were coming on. Like, what a load to carry when you're talking about a legacy like Stuart Scott. And then I started reading about you a little bit more, and you made your Tribeca debut talking about Dick Gregory, which you want to talk about a legacy. And you've done things, Kurt Flood and Bob Gibson, and you've really tackled some huge shadows in our history. When you're doing something like this, do you take that as more weight on your shoulders, or do you say, look, I'm just going to treat this like anything else, I can't be intimidated by it? What is your psychology going into such a heavy lift for something like this?
Yeah, I didn't quite know how much of a glutton for punishment, I was until my wife pointed it out. She said, "Yeah, you never do anything the easy way."
Right.
The taking on Dick Gregory was my first film.
Yeah.
Taking on that film was a mountain to climb, greater than I ever realized, kind of going into it. But like once you're in it, the only way out of it is through. You've got to go through it as opposed to around it or over it. You've got to go straight through it. And the same thing was true when ESPN called me about Stuart Scott. It said, "Yeah, I'm a super fan of his." And making a movie is a journey into the unknown. You really don't know entirely what you're going to get yourself into, but once you're there and you have I got a great team of filmmakers that I work with, had the support of my family and friends and the support of ESPN. It was something that I was honored to take on. I said, yeah, if anybody's going to take this burden on, it's definitely going to be me, and I was excited to be able to do it.
Andre, I think one of the appeals of something like this is when you focus on somebody is who else you can get to talk about them and what they have to say. And he is, like we said before, an icon. He got into pop culture. There's so many layers that spread out with Stuart Scott. I got to imagine the amount of people he's influenced that you were able to get to talk about him. It's probably a pretty large list we're going to see when this comes out in a couple days.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we just had more time, to be honest with you. Soon as this project was announced, everybody and their mom raised their hand and wanted to be in it. But we got blessed with Charles Barkley. Shaq is in it. Vince Carter, of course, Rich Eisen, Susie Colbert, Robin Roberts, Kevin Frazier, just you name it. Everyone wanted to be in the film. We talked to probably over 50, 60 folks. At the end of the day, a few of these schedules didn't necessarily line up. It's just really a process. But it was great to sit down and talk to each one of these folks, and each one had a different story but they were all connected in the fact that their love of Stuart. They all said the same thing in regards to how great of a person that he was off camera, exactly the man you saw on camera, the same off camera. And we got to see that. We got to see all of that and be able to witness it. So now is the time. We're excited to be able to share it with everyone else.
We have just under 2 minutes left with you, so I'm going to ask you 2 questions, and you can decide how quickly you want to answer, because then it's your fault if you're late for the next interview. But I got to ask you, number one, is the worst part of the process editing and cutting things down that you don't want to because you have such an unbelievably short time to tell this story? And number two, has his family seen this, and were you able to, if they did, hear about their reaction?
Yeah, so I'll answer the second one first. The family did see it, yeah, which is, believe it or not, an unusual part of the process. Most of the time, the family sees the movie when it premieres at the same time, but because of their involvement in it, and also the obvious sensitive nature of his cancer battle, which was so public and so courageous and incredible, but there's just so much more to it that a lot of folks have never seen or heard, that we wanted to make sure that all of his family, not only his daughters, Sydney and Taylor, were actually respectively associate producer and consulting producer actually on the project. Those are his 2 daughters. And so they actually had an opportunity to be involved in this process kind of from the beginning. To answer your first question, yes, that is the hardest part. That's why you asked it. It's having to let go of some of this stuff. We could have easily made a 4-part series out of this thing with the amount of material that we had. So we'll see. We might come back and do it again, but I think wanted to make one really great film that was an intimate portrait of a man we knew and loved.
Well, as we say goodbye, let me just say on behalf of, I think, everybody, there's so much crap out there. I can't imagine going, you know what, we need 3 less parts of the Stuart Scott story. Let's just, I'm all for the
Yes.
extended, uncut, unabridged edition. If you ever do it, you do wonderful work.
Director's cut one day, and I'll come on this show to announce it.
Yes,
There you
sir.
go.
Please do.
You got it.
Andre Gaines, director, producer of Boo-Yah, the Stuart Scott story. Check it out in just a couple of days, just in time for the holidays on ESPN. And on behalf of a lot of us who grew up with Stuart and so many others, thanks for taking on these heavy lifts and telling the story. And I can't wait to watch it, Andre.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care. It's Andre Gaines, director of the 30 for 30 on Stu. Coming up in a couple days.
Yeah.
Exciting.
I mean, he truly was, like we talked about earlier, just the heyday of SportsCenter. And just, you could be, you just said it the other day, the other side of the pillow. Like you were sleeping.
Cool.
And
The other side of the cooler,
like
the other side of the pillow.
He stayed in our lexicon, just in our everyday stuff. I mean, it's amazing what he was able to do.
And his influence on so many in the business and out of the business afterwards. And it coincides, by the way, I think it's this week, next week, with the Jimmy V Fund week, which to this day is still, I think we've removed ourselves from enough of, there's enough of a time distance to where I don't think this is hyperbole or being a prisoner in the moment. I'm trying to think, we always do Mount Rushmores. I don't know that there's 2 others. Maybe I'm forgetting one. But I would put Jimmy V's speech, the speech that he made as he was dying, and they're wrapping me up, and I got tumors coursing through. I would put that speech up to Lou Gehrig's speech. I think that's the modern day version of it, where you're watching this dying hero confront his own mortality, and way too soon after these inspiring words were said, we lose them. And I have probably seen Jimmy V's speech, I mean, conservatively, like 100 times. Anytime it's on Twitter or Facebook or comes across my timeline, I watch it. Because honestly, I would love to see people do this. Like, if you woke up every morning and you listened to the end of Jimmy Valvano's speech, I have a feeling you'd be a lot more productive that day.
I agree.
Not just because of his words, Jason Ross, but also, I don't want to get to whatever, but when you look at a Stuart Scott or a Jim Valvano or a Lou Gehrig or countless others we could throw in here, I'm not trying to bring people down. I'm saying there's something about watching their stories and watching about these people that were cut at the height of their powers in their prime, that had so much to offer. And then you go, well, my problems aren't that big a deal. I got to pick Mason up from school and I can't play God of War. Well, cool. What do you think Jimmy V would say to that? What do you think Stuart Scott would be doing right now while I'm sitting on my ass watching, the American Revolution documentary?
Right.
It really is super motivating to look at these titans of industry and culture that were cut down way too soon and go, wow, you know what? There's a lot of crap in my life. We're really lucky.
Yes.
And kind of in a weird way owe it to them to, carpe diem, seize the day.
Maximize what we've got.
Yep. Exactly right. We'll take a break. When we come back, man, the show is flying by. Thanks to Andre Gaines for that. 4 Down Territory, best and worst weeks in the NFL for both team and players. We'll get